Your mom wasn't even married a year to this guy before she asked for an open marriage?
My mom married a man when I was 11 years old. I remember him specifically telling me one time that he'd always respect me as his own child. I remember he had children of his own, but he said he would always treat me like I was his own child because my father didn't. He said I didn't have to call him dad. Lawrence was fine, but when he said that, it hurt me because I desperately wanted to call him dad. He had been around for about 2 years before this moment, when I was 11. He and my mom got married when I was 11, but they divorced that same year. Apparently, he tormented my mom for years, if you ask her, but I learned the truth later. He got my mom fired from her job, and she lost her license to practice. My mom went into teaching, but it didn't pay nearly as much as being a lawyer. My mom actually became a lawyer again, but she had to go through a lot. When I was 13, I went to live with my aunt and uncle. My mom developed a very bad drinking habit, and the family was worried about me as I started to perform horribly in school. So, to dive into it, my stepfather Lawrence went supernova on my mom, all because she wanted an open marriage, and on top of that, he discovered her affair with her colleague Russ. So, Lawrence and my mom met when I was 11. Up until then, the only people I'd call a father figure were my uncles, but they all worked and traveled so much, or they were busy being busy lawyers. I'd only see them on holidays or get calls on birthdays. I don't know how Lawrence and my mother actually met, but I remember when my mom introduced me to him. I learned that he was a professor at Ball State, and he was really good at math. He'd help me with my math homework, and I got really good at math. In fact, I can probably thank Lawrence for my career in computer programming. Lawrence actually helped me build my first computer as well. I have a consulting firm called Motherboard Link LLC. Lawrence started coming over every Sunday while my mom cooked. He'd help me with homework. Eventually, Lawrence began to bring his two sons over. Man, I miss those guys and hope they turned out well in life. After we'd all finish homework on Sunday, we'd go outside and play around until dinner was ready. It was fun to have brothers for that little bit of time. Being the only one actually sucks a bit. My aunt and uncle, who basically adopted me, didn't have children. They both worked. Aunt's a lawyer. My family is full of lawyers and judges. I look forward to Sundays. We all just got used to it every Sunday. They'd be over, and it was the same thing. Sometimes we'd see each other in the middle of the week, but mainly it was on Sundays. We became a family when my stepdad gave me the speech of me not having to call him father. I kind of took it the wrong way. I thought he was telling me not to do it, or he just didn't want me to do it. But honestly, he was just telling me that if I didn't want to, I didn't have to. But he asked my mom to marry him. We were all so happy. We were going to be a big family. Now my stepbrothers, they weren't going to be living with us, but our parents said they were going to get a big enough house for us to have our own rooms. We were all ecstatic about that, but of course we never made it to that moment. My mom and Lawrence married in the same year they divorced, so at the time, from my eyes, what I saw was two people excited to be married. They'd kiss in front of me. They'd flirt with each other in the kitchen. I remember all of that like it was yesterday. I saw and heard it when my mom asked the question of open marriage, but this wasn't the same day they were going off on each other. This was unusual. This was after school one day. They both were home from work. It was really loud and I was a bit scared. Lawrence even punched the wall. I knew he punched the wall because when I went upstairs to go into my mom's bedroom, my mom eventually told me that's what Lawrence did. So now all the information I have. That day, they argued over my mom cheating. Not the day she asked for the open marriage. She had asked prior to this. The hole in the wall because my mom was sleeping with her colleague at her firm. I remember my mom begging Lawrence not to leave. Even though they were married, we all hadn't moved in yet. Lawrence still had his own place, and my mom and I still had our own place. But Lawrence stayed over a lot more often once they got married. But altogether, all the boys and my parents would go look for houses and go to open houses together. We all had input. It was going to be a family thing. I remember my mom saying, "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It's not my fault. He seduced me." I remember those words, saying that someone seduced her. I don't know exactly what evidence Lawrence had. He had enough to get my mom fired, and what I learned later is she got fired and lost her license for misconduct. I remember my mom having to go to meetings, or actually, now that I know, they were divorce proceedings. My mom would go to those, and one time I went and my mom grabbed me outside of the courthouse. She was yelling at Lawrence, saying, "You're going to do this to him. How can you do this to him?" Saying that he's hurting me by divorcing her. "You know his father isn't in his life," my mom said. The exact words I heard from Lawrence was, "Yes, the F I am. Find his daddy Bish. I'm not gonna lie." I was hurt by that. Why you say that to me? Or at least about me in front of me. I thought Lawrence really loved me, but I guess he just loved my mom. And since I was her son, he had no choice but to respect me. But when it was time for divorce, it was F me and my mom, if I had it my way. Lawrence would have adopted me, and I would have just grown up with him and my brothers. I would have loved that. My mom cried a lot, and this is when she started drinking a lot too. My mom drank before, but not like this. My mom would just sit on the weekends in her pajamas and drink wine all the time, and sometimes liquor. She'd make margaritas and stuff like that. I remember my aunt and uncle were getting worried, and they started coming over all the time, cleaning up the house. My mom wasn't doing any of that. She wasn't taking care of anything. It's like she also started to neglect me as well. She didn't help me with my homework. She missed parent-teacher conferences. My aunt and uncle started going for me. Well, my aunt. My uncle was barely home. I remember my mom drinking so much, and when the divorce was over, it got worse because she would talk about how Lawrence got her fired and he was ruining her life. Remember my mom talking about she can't practice anymore? A lot of my family was over at the house. Uncles, grandpa, cousins, and everybody was telling her that everything's going to be okay and they'll fix everything. But it took a while before my mom became a lawyer again, some years. In the meantime, she was teaching high school. About time I turned 13 is when my aunt told my mom that I was going to live with them because my grades were slipping. And my mom just didn't care, but she had a job as a teacher. My mom even drank on the job. Complaints she falls asleep in class. When I turned 14, my mom was still working at the high school and I had just entered high school. Now it's not like I never saw my mom once I moved with my aunt. I saw her all the time, pretty much every day. She'd come by my aunt's house or I'd go over and stay the night sometimes, but I pretty much lived with my aunt. She loved helping me with work and science projects and stuff like that. I love my aunt, but there is another story. I could tell if you guys want to hear it about me living with my aunt, so like I said, my uncle would be gone all the time for work, and I started to notice a guy. My aunt's friend is what she would say. He's just my friend. Never gave me a name, but he come over often, usually late sometimes. He shows up a little earlier some other times while I was still downstairs and not asleep, and I've actually heard them in the bedroom. I'd get more into that story after this. I didn't know if my aunt and my uncle had some open arrangement, but I remember Aunt telling me that this was just her friend, and I don't need to discuss this with anyone. My aunt and uncle actually divorced when I was 19, while I was away for college, and it was a big deal. He did find out some stuff about her, but my aunt accused him of cheating as well, actually from what I heard. My aunt said that she found out he cheated several times, but she forgave him because she loved him. But when he caught her, it was grounds for divorce, And I remember my aunt saying that's not fair. But anyway, in high school, many of my friends and other students knew that my mom taught there, and of course, it was embarrassing because there would be times that my mom would fall asleep in class, and she was known for being drunk. Everybody knew, even other teachers, but she still taught classes. No other parents came up to complain. It was little embarrassing because people would say, "Dude, your mom is gone. Tell her to lay off the booze, dude." Types of dumb stuff like that, but I ignored it. I never fought anyone over it. I just ignore it. I complained to my aunt, but she'd always tell me she'd talk to her and she's trying to get her into rehab, which eventually they did. My mom doesn't drink anymore. There was another supernova revenge part that Lawrence got on my mom. So my mom and Lawrence created something that you all use today. I'm not sure how many of you ever heard of Chuck Hull. He's known as the 3D printer inventor. Well, Lawrence and my mother together came up with some mechanical mechanism for 3D printing. This was purchased by a company. My mom had no idea that Lawrence put a patent on it. Yes, my mom, the family lawyer. For some reason, she didn't think to do it. My grandpa called her all types of stupid, and they tried for a while to get money out of Lawrence, but they never got it. What piece of it is on 3D printers exactly? I don't know, but it was sold to a company, and I believe the company sold it to another. I don't know how Chuck Hull becomes an inventor of the printer, but from what I understand, Lawrence, till this day, gets paid for what he created and what he owns. I believe he got some initial payout where he did give my mother some money, but he also gets paid forever. My mom says he stole it all. He robbed me, and we have family members that say he'll get his one day. They'll make sure of it. From what I understand, Lawrence is set up somewhere. His kids and his grandkids. He's living good, and my mom is still pissed. So, the moral of the story is, women don't ask your husband for an open marriage. You're either going to bring heat on yourself and get caught cheating, or he's going to leave anyway, which he should. I've heard all these stories on the True Story Epic channel and other channels as well on YouTube. You guys are doing a great job at saving a lot of people and sharing all these different types of stories. It's amazing. But I can make this part 1. It's too long and you can do another video for part 2 or just add it to the story. But true story, can I tell you guys about my aunt and my uncle? So, this is part 2, as you all know. I went to go stay with my aunt and uncle. I was pretty close with my uncle, even though he traveled a lot. I still talk to him, even though he's not married to my aunt. My aunt had a friend that would come over all the time. And I remember the first time I heard them in the bedroom, clearly having sex. So my uncle was part of a band. They recorded music and performed all over. They got invited to many places. They'd tour a lot, open up for a big acts as well. So I guess it's believable that my uncle might have cheated on my aunt a few times. It doesn't mean that she should forgive him and then cheat on him. And if my uncle did cheat on my aunt, I don't think that's right, but it's very believable. He clearly denied it, but apparently, according to her, he had a baby out there and was paying the woman off. I remember when my uncle would come home, he and my aunt would screw like freaking animals. They tell me to go outside or say, "Call your mother and see if she can come over." I remember one time they really wanted my mom to come get me and kept telling her to hurry up. They couldn't wait. And they went upstairs and I can hear them all the way downstairs. They had a big house, by the way. Remember turning the TV up and just being disgusted. My mom finally got to the house drunk. I didn't care. I ran out and shut the door. I remember not even locking the door. They were just so loud, but I know many of you are wondering, especially you Mr. True Story Epic, why did I not tell my uncle about my aunt cheating on him? To answer that question, man, I truly don't know. I was a coward. I guess I was scared. I felt like it wasn't my business. I don't know why I didn't say anything. I really wish I could answer that, 'cause I know that's what you all are thinking. I know you all are probably thinking that I probably deserve what I got from Lawrence when he said F me. Basically, even though it happened way before I found out about my aunt cheating, but still, I don't know. I do feel bad for not saying anything, but eventually my aunt did get caught cheating. So everyone in my family talks about everybody else's business. So I knew all the juicy details from cousins, aunt, everybody. Everybody yaps and yaps. I had an aunt. My mom's other sister called me while I was at college. It started off like this. Me. Hello, Aunt. Hey, baby. Auntie misses you. How is school going? Tell me everything. I miss you so much. Me. Hey, Auntie. I miss you too. Things are going great working on the project right now, but taking a break. It's been busy, nothing but focus here. Aunt. As it should be, baby. So, have you talked to your mother? Me. Not in about 2 weeks? I was gonna call her here soon. We usually don't go a week without talking, but like I said, I've been so busy. Aunt. It's been busy in the family. Do you know your auntie and uncle getting divorced, right? Me. Why? What's going on? Aunt. Child, your little hussy of an aunt decided to sleep with another man in their house. Your uncle caught them red-handed. He nearly offed that other guy. Luckily, he didn't. I don't want to see him in prison. He's a good man. I would have pulled some strings, though, and got him off. He's too good of a man and too fine to be in prison. Me. Oh, wow. I immediately knew about who she probably was talking about. It probably was the same guy, maybe, or maybe it was someone else. So, my auntie saw that guy up until I went to college. This one guy, every time my uncle was gone, he'd come over all the time. I remember there were times he had dinner with us, but he was my aunt's friend. I never said anything to my uncle. I didn't even know how to, but he divorced my aunt. I remember they had to sell their house. They had a really big house, but they pretty much had to split everything. And they didn't have children, but my aunt, she was devastated by that because she said she loved my uncle and she thought he was wrong for leaving her because she gave him so many chances and he disrespected her. I guess Unc wasn't having it. Anyway, true story, I hope you can give me some good words after this story. I know I'm probably not liked by many because of me not telling on my aunt, but I'm sorry it happened. Also, true story, I hope you can use my story on your YouTube channel. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to read the comments as well. You all take care.
Your mom wasn't even married a year to this guy before she asked for an open marriage? What did she expect? She was expecting him to not go snooping. It sounds like she brought it up and he went researching and he found some stuff. What an idiot. And he did kind of go supernova. Like he kept her out of the deal, got her fired. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm happy. And your aunts, man, your aunts are wild, dude. Look, man, thanks for sending in this story, honestly. But look, you were a child, right? You were a kid and you saw something wrong, right? With your aunt and your uncle. I'm talking about the second story. You saw something wrong with your aunt and your uncle, and you didn't even know what to say. And it probably was because, your aunt was your blood relative and your uncle was just your uncle by marriage. A lot of people probably will say, man, that's messed up. You should have said something. You should have ratted your aunt out. That's not cool. Maybe, if I'm in your position, how old were you? 13? I don't know what I would do in that situation. At 13-year-old me, I don't know. So look, man, I'm glad you're good. Sorry you never really had a father figure in your life. You said you didn't have your biological father in your life. Your mom ever talk about it? Like, where is he? Like, what happened? What'd she do to him? But I'm glad you had some form of father figures like your uncles. They did what they could, it sounded like, but sounds like you turned out pretty good, man. So salute to you, man. And thanks for this story. Guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you want to send in a story, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on the screen. That's truestorynation@gmail.com. We'll catch you guys at the next one.